Survivors of comas. What was it like? Had a major open heart surgery, almost died and went into a 2-week coma after resuscitation. Being in the coma felt like sleeping soundly, to be honest. Had an endless series of random dreams. The last dream I had before waking up was that I was riding escalators for way too long, so long that I even thought to myself in the dream, that's strange, why aren't I waking up? In a coma for 42 days. I don't remember a thing. I got in a car accident in 2016. No head trauma, thank God, but I was in and out of consciousness for about a week. I have 3 memories and flashes of asking for water about 1 trillion times. The 3 memories were my friend Rosa coming to see me. I think I woke up for like a minute and went back to oblivion. Waking up and having a tingling feeling. I fractured 4 or 5 vertebrae and had a burst fracture on my L4 in my right leg, notifying my mom or dad, honestly don't remember, who then got a doctor who promptly told everyone to leave. Then I was back out again, bitching to my parents about one specific nurse who I blamed for not letting me have water in my haze of drugs. I was in a medically induced coma for 3 weeks. All I remember is what it's like when they start pulling you out. I was having very vivid and strange dreams mixed with reality. Then one day I was able to recognize it was now September, but I remembered entering the hospital in August. The worst thing, in my opinion, is the atrophy that happens while you're not moving. I was in a coma for a month and had to build my muscles up to be able to walk and climb steps again. I think I made it from my daughter the next one the first time they got me out of bed, and I cried because of the mixture of physical and mental pain. The first time I tried to climb a flight of stairs, I just went at it like normal and was exhausted before coming close to the top. The rehab person had to explain to me that for now it was getting both feet on the step before going for the next one, like how old people climb stairs. It ended up taking over a year before my body was anywhere close to normal. I also had this skin peeling on my hands and feet shortly after I woke up. I was in a medically induced coma for a week or so back in 2008 after going through a 22-hour surgery to remove the tumor from my abdominal area. I ended up spending about 3 months in the surgical ICU recovering from that before being sent upstairs for 3 more months in the hospital receiving chemotherapy. I still have PTSD today from my time in the ICU. A big part of it was something called ICU delirium. Basically, it's when the bright, always on, lights, constant beeps and odd combinations of medicines mess with your systems and, basically, make you temporarily crazy. I still remember the hallucinations I had there more vividly than dreams I had this week. Ugh. A motorcycle accident left me in a medically induced coma for about 2 weeks. I had weird dreams. I didn't know what had happened to me until I was woken up. I didn't know time had passed. I still remember the dreams. My sister was in a coma for over a month from a car accident. She was asleep in the backseat on a road trip and her friend flipped the car on the freeway, trying to avoid something on the road by swerving, but in a panic she hit the gas instead of the brake. She had a bruise on her brain, which was kinda like her being mentally handicapped, but each day she got better. Now she's completely recovered and back to normal. When she woke up she told us she had a dream where some mystery guy shot her, and that's what she thought happened with no recollection of the car accident. I was out for 2.5 days from an unintentional overdose, aka why the pharmacy always asks if you have any questions about that pill nowadays. I have no memory for about a day after waking up, but my family said I had some pretty rough things to say after my eyes opened. 0 out of 10, would not recommend. 2.5 days of coma versus 1 decade of coma. Throwaway account cause this is really personal. My last semester at a certain college I was assaulted by a football player for walking where he was trying to drive. Note he was 325 pounds, I was 120 pounds. While unconscious on the ground I lived a different life. I met a wonderful young lady, she made my heart skip and my face red. I pursued her for months and dispatched a few jerk boyfriends before I finally won her over. After 2 years we got married and almost immediately she bore me a daughter. I had a great job and my wife didn't have to work outside of the house. When my daughter was 2, my wife, bore me a son. My son was the joy of my life. I would walk into his room every morning before I left for work and doted on him and my daughter. One day while sitting on the couch I noticed that the perspective of the lamp was odd, like inverted. It was still in 3D, but just wrong. It was a square lamp base, red with gold trim on 4 legs and a white square shade. I was transfixed. I couldn't look away from it. I stayed up all night staring at it. The next morning I didn't go to work. Something was just not right about that lamp. I stopped eating. I left the couch, only to use the bathroom at first. Soon I stopped that too as I wasn't eating or drinking. I stared at the lamp for 3 days before my wife got really worried. She had someone come and try to talk to me. By this time my cognizance was breaking up, and my wife was freaking out. She took the kids to her mother's house. Just before I had my epiphany, the lamp is not real. The house is not real. My wife, my kids, none of that is real. The last 10 years of my life are not real. The lamp started to grow wider and deeper. It was still inverted dimensions. It took up my entire perspective and all I could see was red. I heard voices, screams, all kinds of weird noises and I became aware of pain. A ton of pain. The first words I said were "I'm missing teeth," and opened my eyes. I was laying on my back on the sidewalk, surrounded by people that I didn't know. Lots were freaking out. I was completely confused. At some point a cop scooped me up, dragged/walked me across the sidewalk and grass, and threw me face down in the back of a cop car. I was still confused. I was taken to the hospital by the cop. Seems he didn't want to wait for the ambulance to arrive, and given CT scans and stuff. I went through about 3 years of horrid depression. I was grieving the loss of my wife and children, and dealing with the knowledge that they never existed. I was scared that I was going insane as I would cry myself to sleep hoping I would see her in my dreams. I never have, but sometimes I see my son, usually just a glimpse out of my peripheral vision. He is perpetually 5 years old, and I can never hear what he says. I was put into a medically induced coma for a week after I got rocked in a crash. It sucked balls. 1. I could hear what was going on, but had 0 ways to communicate. 2. The hallucinations/nightmares was really messed up, but that's to expect from anyone who goes into a coma due to a traumatic event. And 3. I couldn't tell what was real and what was a dream for a very long time, and still have moments where I have loud and severe auditory hallucinations that convince me I'm back in my non-consensual nap time. Also, something that isn't well known is, after an extended period of strong meds and not moving, besides when the nurses roll you like a Cali roll, your muscles forget how to work. It took me about a month of rehab to get enough strength to lift a large cup of water. But it was absolutely necessary, and although it was scary as shit, I survived my less than 10% survival chance thanks to the amazing, strong, and caring nurses and specialists. I was able to return to my babies and my future husband. Still, 0 out of 10. Would not recommend. It was bizarre. Last thing I remember was the respiratory tech came into my general floor hospital room to give me a treatment. Next thing I know she is calling in the floor nurses say we have to get her to ICU now. Someone said we need doctor's orders and the tech said I don't care, we are going now. 7 days later the breathing tube is removed and I start coming back to reality. The first day I was so out of it, I thought Oprah had found a cure for cancer. I also for some reason decided to attack a nurse, tried to run and promptly fell face first into a counter. I broke my nose. The weeks following were very strange. I developed a fear of falling asleep and had mild hallucinations. All in all 0 out of 10. Would not recommend. I fell into a coma after I got very drunk, fell over, cracked my head, and had a bleed on my brain. Had the last rites said as well. I was out for about 21 hours or so. I remember nothing of the coma, just woke up with no recollection of what happened. Was a mixture of very confused, disorientated and had a standard shitty hangover. I was in a coma approximately 2 weeks. My medical records say Glasgow coma scale of 7. Had to check what the Glasgow coma scale is. A fully awake person has a score of 15. Worst case coma patient has 3 points. So 7 is very bad. I don't remember anything. I remember waking up tied down to a bed in a hospital. The nurse told me that I had tried to get up and that if I got up and got hurt he would be responsible. When I had the accident, I had a closed head injury and I was paralyzed on my right side. They left me tied down for a while until I was transferred to Army Hospital. I had to learn how to walk and talk again. I was able to talk when I woke up, but I was stuttering enough to require speech therapy for a few months. It took a while before I could walk again, and a few months until I could leave the hospital. One of the things I remember was the orientation tests. When I woke up, the doctors or nurses ask simple questions like what is your name, what day is it, where were you born, who is the president. I believe I may have answered Ronald Reagan, a few years after George H.W. Bush 41 was elected. I have a weird memory of the scene from the movie Born in East LA, where they ask who the president is, and he answered. That actor. I had went from running 10 miles per day to not being able to walk. My mom said that she had talked to me while I was at St. Joseph Barrow Neurological Hospital, but I only remember the days after I came out of the coma before I was transferred to the Army Hospital. My mom came to the hospital and she would push me around in the wheelchair. I never regained my physical abilities after the accident. I ride a bicycle a lot, but I never really started running again, and I never regained my strength after the accident. Most people would never notice anything wrong with me, but there was enough damage for me to be medically retired from the army. It has been 30 years since the accident, so don't remember the details that well. That's it for today. Comas are really scary. Take care of each other in the comments and I'll see you all tomorrow. You need to wake up.